Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Should Have Recorded That with Phil and
Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Welcome to March. I say
Yes.
welcome now that we are in the third week of March.
Yeah, I'm thinking about April. I'm sure you're thinking about
Yes,
April too.
I am thinking about April. Yes, I'm a college professor, so there's a lot to think about in April.
Yes.
But here we are in March,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we'll get our April episode out closer to the beginning of the month. But I feel proud of us for getting the March episode released in March.
Yeah, I think we will make it. We were like
We will make it.
we got one weekend. Like this is the last weekend.
I know that our dear audience has really been waiting for
Yes.
this. So, dear audience, send us some feedback. What do you think about the new publishing schedule?
Yes, right. Come back to us and let us know what you think.
Yes.
Come back and let us.
Oh,
So
but Phil, how have you been since we last talked?
I mean I've been really good. All things considered, I've been pretty good. We the school is doing well. The students are doing well, and the choir that I do at the church. It is this year, I think, is with the stops and starts have really been I think has been the hardest thing. Is we were in person. We started in November in person, and then I think with Omicron, we went back. The church actually stopped singing live, and
Oh,
so
wow.
we had to pause that. We tried a virtual choir, which was okay, but I'm glad that we're now back in person. So yeah, how
Oh,
about you?
yes. Oh, yes. I hadn't realized that you'd stopped singing for a little while. Yeah, oh my word. So much has happened since we last talked. We are now, on pandemic news, we are now maskless
Right.
at the college, and we are singing maskless at both the college and church.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so wonderful to see the faces of my students again. Oh,
Oh wow.
oh, I just am so grateful.
Yeah, it is. I think it really is a good experience. You know, at the age of your students, they're changing less and less. Like they're pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're at the end of like their, growing. But my students, like the third graders, they were in the first grade when when we went
Yes.
into this pandemic, and so they
Right.
are they're taller. They came back taller, and they look
Mm-hmm.
so different now. It's yeah, it is so crazy.
Yes. And you can see the differences
Right.
now.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it is a beautiful thing.
It is, and yeah, so like I guess that's kind of like our pandemic update. The other thing, and I don't know, maybe if you have some advice on this, the I like proximity is something that you taught and you demonstrated for us, in choir rehearsals and in the classroom. But I
Mm.
do think like our students may have gotten away with some faking it, with mask on, with the
Yes. Yes. Oh, my word. Yes. I have noticed that consonant formation
uh-huh.
is now way overdone, and
Okay. Wow.
vowel formation
Uh-huh.
has been so lazy. I mean, and
Mm,
now that I can see the mouths of my singers again, I can be
right.
like, release that jaw.
Right.
What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? You're not pulling your weight. Everyone around you has their jaw released. You've got to release yours too.
All right. Yes. I mean, yeah, like because like we want to, and I know I remember this. Like and this is gonna be a tangent, but I remember as a singer myself, like learning singer myself. Yeah, like realizing it that yeah, the work is really inside. It's not there's work on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but we can spend so much time trying to um, um, like falsely manufacture that sound like with our
Mm-hmm.
lips and jaw and not
Right.
really find it internally. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's so true.
yeah. So,
So anyway, yeah, I am just that has been a wonderful development. I am grateful.
mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm yeah. Omicron was a weird thing, and I'm a little bit bitter about it because some of my concert plans got moved due to Omicron.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so I'm a little bit bitter about Omicron because it came and went so quickly. Um, no, I just I'm bitter because it upended so many plans
Right.
and then
It was
it
over.
just fizzled out.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
but of course, I say that. But of course, what I really mean is that I'm very grateful that Omicron
It's come and gone.
fizzled out
Yeah.
and that we are experiencing such a precipitous drop in COVID cases and hospitalizations and deaths here in the US.
Yes.
Um, and I'm grateful for, this increased immunity among the population because everyone I know has got COVID. I still have not gotten COVID.
Really?
Yes, as one of my colleagues put it, it's like we are the last kids out on the dodgeball court. And the last kids out are the weaklings, right? The last kids out are the ones who were hiding against the wall the whole game. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I actually like I think I did. I went to the store. I went it was I mean because we're masked, and because we do practice the social distancing and the cleaning, it
mm-hmm.
was I think it was kind of okay from what I understand, but I came home one Wednesday and I'm like I need to go get or maybe it was a Tuesday. I came home one Tuesday and I'm like I need to go get tested because
Mm,
I'm just like this feels worse than a cold. It feels like a very
yeah,
bad cold.
yeah,
And yeah, I had actually I contracted it. Thank God I think Anais if she got it from me, it wasn't that bad for her. So
good,
um I'm thankful for that, and I don't think Wendy contracted it. But
good.
I was this last wave it finally got me. So
Well, I mean, I feel like it's unavoidable, right? Like we'll all
uh
have the flu at some point in our lives.
yeah.
We all get the common cold. So
Mm-hmm.
despite all of the shots I've had, I know that at some point I will get COVID. I just hope that the virus is significantly weakened by then and that
Right.
I just, deal with my 5 days of isolation and take care of myself and then can get back to work.
Right. I mean, because like that's the main thing. That's what vaccines are supposed to do, right? They're supposed to build
Right.
up our immunity, not keep it out of our not keep it out of our
E-
body.
exactly. So,
Yes.
anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good development. What else have you been up to since the last time we talked?
Well, I mean, I'm one. I know you asked the question. I know you asked me the question, but I feel like I think we should like. I want to know what you were up to because and I think our audience want to know because if they listen
Mm,
to our last episode, you were headed into Russia. Like,
yes.
explain because
And,
I'm trying to remember because I
right.
think you went the same week everything
Yes.
started happening,
So
right?
the last time that we talked,
Mm-hmm.
I think was the week before I left.
Right.
Um, so the episode might have actually been released the day I left for Russia, or the day after I left for Russia.
I think
Uh,
so. Mm-hmm.
so, um, yeah, I timed my trip with the winter break at Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left Rochester on Friday, February 18th.
Mm.
And um, and yes, I decided, I think I said this on the episode, I'm going to make the decision, like the final decision, the by 5 p.m. on Thursday the 17th, the day before I go.
Mm-hmm.
And war hadn't started yet,
Right.
and everything else was in place. I had my plane ticket, I had my hotel reservation, I had my humanitarian visa, I everything was in place.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, Lord, you have orchestrated it for me to be able to go.
Right.
So I know that whatever happens over there, I'm trusting you to keep me safe.
Yeah.
And so I left on the 18th. Flew down to New York City, had a significant long layover there, and then left for Helsinki just before midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And then had a brief layover in Helsinki, and then flew to St. Petersburg. And I was in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, Phil, oh, um, I, our audience is probably wondering, like, wants me to get to the, like, were you safe part. Our audience
Uh,
is probably like wants to get to the, like, what about the war part. Um, so dear audience, I promise I'll get there, but let
right.
me go in chronological order. I need to keep my thoughts organized.
Take your time.
Um, I the a student from the conservatory um, was sort of like my tour guide. So whenever he was free and I was free, he was available to, help me get around the city, navigate public transit, go to different sites. So he met me at the airport. That was fantastic, and Ubered me into the city. I got to my hotel, got checked in. I was quite jet lagged and exhausted by the time that I got there, and it was, the sun was already setting, so I'd, been traveling for over 24 hours already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I just sort of just crashed at the hotel, and then the next morning woke up and went to an English speaking church. Found an English speaking Lutheran church in St. Petersburg. Enjoyed that. There were 13 of us in the congregation. I was the 13th,
Mm.
and they were all Americans. So I felt
Okay.
I felt good about that, and
Uh-huh.
I got the pastor's card primarily because he offered it to me. But I did have the secondary thought that if anything bad happened in
Right.
St. Petersburg, I needed an English speaking American
Yes.
to contact as my emergency contact,
Yes.
because Russia. Do you remember when Russia poisoned that political dissident on the plane to Germany?
Mm, yeah.
And yes, and this is several years ago, and the United States forced Russia to close several consulates, like close the Seattle consulate and whatnot, as punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when that happened, Russia, in retaliation, closed several American consulates throughout
Oh,
the
the
country,
country.
including its consulate in the second largest city in Russia, St.
Wow.
Petersburg. So there is no American consulate in
St.
St.
Petersburg.
Petersburg. The nearest consulate is 8 hours away by car in Moscow.
Mm.
So so yeah, I needed to know an American on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, and then got to the student from the conservatory showed me around the city. And then on Monday, I began my work. I spent 4 or 5 hours a day at the conservatory on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I interviewed 6 different faculty members. I observed a bunch of conducting lessons. I observed choral rehearsals. I did some work in the library with scores we don't have access to here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So the work was wonderful. Their educational system is wildly different from ours. I was my first day at the conservatory, Monday the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like my first day of college. I mean, I have been in higher education. My first day as a student in higher ed was August of 2003, right?
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
I have been in this profession for almost 20 years,
Right.
and that Monday at the conservatory felt like my first day of school because everything was so new and so different and so
Mm.
foreign.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had a wonderful time learning about their system and learning about their perspectives on conducting training and choral music and choral performance practice, especially of Russian music. Um, so that was wonderful. I met two different people who I spent quite a bit of time with on that first day. I met them and spent quite a bit of time with them throughout the rest of the week. The first was um, Irina, who was the administrative assistant for the international relations department at the conservatory. She speaks excellent English. She served as my translator for many occasions throughout the week,
Mm-hmm.
and she really was the one who facilitated my visit. Helped me schedule things. Was a liaison between me and the faculty who I wanted to observe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she helped process my humanitarian visa before I even got there. So,
Mm-hmm.
Irina, if you're listening, thank you.
Yes.
You're just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then a student in the choral conducting department was also incredibly helpful. Her English was impeccable because her father is British, so they spoke English at home frequently. Her English was perfect, um, and so she was incredibly helpful. She also served as a translator for me on a different couple of different occasions. She uh, drew me a flow chart of the educational system so that I could understand the parallels between the American system and the Russian, because she was a little bit more familiar with at least the UK system. So uh, those people were wonderful, and it was a real pleasure um, to meet kind, wonderful people. Um, so that was what I did in terms of work. Um, Besides the work, I had evenings free to explore the city. So the student who was like my tour guidey buddy, he guided me around the city in the evenings. That was wonderful. Um, Wednesday, February 23rd, the Wednesday I was there, was a holiday in Russia. So the conservatory was closed, which means that I got to spend the whole day out exploring the city.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Hermitage that day, which was, oh, Phil, I think it is the best museum I have ever been to. Uh, it was just incredible. Oh, it was just amazing. So um, that was wonderful. I went to see an opera that evening on the 23rd, Prince Igor at the historic Mariinsky Theater.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so that was really incredible to hear Russian opera sung in Russian by Russians
Mm-hmm.
in a Russian theater. Oh, it was just, it was wonderful.
The
Um,
Let me ask you, like, because wasn't the one of the choruses we did one of the choruses or something from that, right? Is that am I
Yeah,
thinking
good
correctly?
memory, Phil. Good
Mm-hmm.
memory. Yes, the Polvetzian dances
Uh-huh.
are the way that he closes the first half of the show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a long, extended choral orchestral extravaganza with dancing in the staged operatic version.
Right.
Um, so yes, you have sung from Prince Igor, a
W-
big chunk.
what did you think of that? Like, how did that?
Oh, it was amazing to hear it sung. I mean, there are probably 80 or 90 in the chorus, and they're all, you know, adult Russian opera singers.
Uh,
Singing in their native language.
yeah.
So it was like, oh, it just shook your bones. It was so
Uh.
good.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was wonderful. Um, Woke up on Thursday the 24th and found out the same way that everyone in the United States did that Russia had invaded Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by turning on CNN, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in St.
Mm-hmm.
Petersburg. I was a long way away from the border, and so I learned about the invasion the same way everyone else did, and by the 40,000 text messages on my phone asking me if I were okay, if I was
Mm-hmm.
okay, and
Mm-hmm.
of course I replied to each of them, but I wanted to be like, do you know how to read a map? No. Like, I'm in St. Petersburg. It's nowhere near Ukraine. But I was very touched by people's concern, whether I was okay. I was totally safe. I went into the conservatory that day, did my work the same way that I had. A few people talked to me about it. Some people were incredibly upset. They seemed quite anti war, but
Mm-hmm.
more reticent to voice their political opinions than Americans would be.
Right.
I just, and that was an interesting observation to make. In
Mm.
the United States, if I disagree with something that the government does, then, I'm like very vocal in my opposition. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in Russia, they obviously don't feel that freedom to speak their mind
Right.
against policies of their leadership. And
Mm-hmm.
but my impression was that the majority of people, at least the ones I was dealing with, educated musicians, uh, the majority of them were quite anti-war.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I do, just I do, I do have a sympathy for the people I met.
Mm-hmm.
Right, ordinary people going about their lives, opposed to war. They don't get to vote for Vladimir Putin. They don't
Right.
choose. They don't choose the war or the person who did choose the war, and they will be punished. Right? They're the
Right.
ones whose economy is in free fall
Yeah.
because of the decisions of Putin. So anyway, when I went about my work, um, I had enrolled in the State Department's Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, the STEP,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have received several emails through the week just about Russia being less than the safest place in the world for Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And on Thursday the 24th, I received probably the most emotionally worded email of the trip, in which the State Department basically pleaded with Americans to avoid public areas in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
because they were afraid that Americans would be caught up in protests
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a real shame when you are in an incredible world class city for the first time and you want to see the city. It's a real shame to stay in your hotel room, but that's what I did, and it was probably for the best
Mm-hmm.
because um, there were protests in several places I had visited earlier in the week,
Mm-hmm.
and multiple hundreds of people in St. Petersburg alone arrested at those protests for voicing their dissent to the war.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I stayed in and just and and like I did the whole week, went out on Friday and just kept a very low profile, kept my mouth shut, didn't speak English out loud. When I had to buy something at the store, they probably just thought I was mute because I didn't talk. I just shoved my card in the reader and paid for the item and left.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so uh, yeah, got through Friday, checked out of the hotel on Saturday morning. The front desk agent was very funny, and when I was checking out, he's like, "Are you evacuating?" And I'm like, "Nope, always planned to
To
leave
leave
on
this
this day at
day.
this time." But Phil,
Mm-hmm.
here's the amazing thing:
What's that?
36 hours after I left the country, the State Department issued another communication
Mm-hmm.
to STEP program enrollees. Now, keep in mind, I had already left, right?
Right.
So I don't get the email myself, but I did read the email later on the State Department's website.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, American citizens get out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just I just, I marvel. I marvel. I'm about to talk about how blessed I am, and I feel a little bit guilty doing that because the people of Ukraine are undergoing such horror. But but I will say, for my own part, I was so blessed. I was safe the entire time. I was provided for beautifully by the conservatory. They were so hospitable. Um, and I left before my credit cards would have stopped working. I
Mm-hmm.
left before flights to Europe and North America were canceled.
Mm-hmm.
I left before all Western airlines had pulled out of the country. I left before any of those things that would have made life very difficult for me
Right.
happened. I
Right.
left before I didn't have access to cash anymore. I left
Mm-hmm.
before sanctions had been enacted. I was incredibly fortunate, and um, and I marvel because I am very very grateful I did the trip because it was the very last week that I
Mm.
could have
Have
done
done
the
it.
trip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And who knows when Americans will be able to go back to Russia? No time soon.
Yeah.
So, as one of the last Americans to leave Russia, I will say I'm very, very grateful.
Well, yeah.
Very, very, very grateful to all of the people who made it an unforgettable
Mm-hmm.
experience for me, and an
Mm-hmm.
experience that um, really has changed for the better my teaching, um, my approach to choral tone, I would say, especially. Um, I'm not a totally new person. I'm not saying that. But
Right.
I do. It honed my ears. It helped develop my ears and hear things a little bit differently. Hopefully, a little bit more keenly.
Mm.
Um, so it's benefiting my students already. It's benefiting me. I'm still processing the many many things that I learned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just am so grateful.
Well, I'm glad you did make it back safely, and um, and hopefully, maybe in another month we could talk about those things that you learned because I would be very interested to hear. Um,
Sure, we could absolutely do that.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Let me just mention now. Can I use the Russia Ukraine war as my current event, Phil?
yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, I will just we now that we're now that we are publishing on a monthly basis instead of a weekly, I think I'd hoped that by the time we recorded this episode,
Things would be
the
different.
war would be over, right? That it would
Mm-hmm.
be that Putin would realize it was going to be harder than he thought, and
Mm-hmm.
he would pull out, and then, the NATO and the EU and the United States could say, you know, figure out some way to ensure that he didn't do that again, and then begin to lift sanctions. And right, I really hoped we would be in a different place
Mm-hmm.
than we are now, but
Mm-hmm.
instead we are in a place where innocent civilians in Ukraine are being killed, are the casualties of war.
Yeah.
A senseless, unprovoked, completely unjustifiable war.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes my heart grieve. Um, and I I do pray for peace. I do pray for resolution. I pray for the wisdom of world leaders. I pray for a miracle.
Yeah. 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 I'm praying. I'm praying about peace, too. I think this recent issue has definitely made that more keen for me
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just the need for that, and even like I'm just thinking about here and and home, and I think like we there are times where we can, as we reflect, we kind of think about how we can be more intentional, um, in doing our, whether it's doing our work or just what we hope our work is doing, just being more intentional to make sure that we're actually about those things, about empowering our students, and about creating a community where people
Mm.
feel safe,
Yes.
and where we can have conversations, and maybe we don't always agree, but there is a understanding that I may not agree with your opinion, but that doesn't mean I can harm you because I don't like your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts, or I don't like your choices. And in these type of situations, this they're looking at the conflict in Ukraine. It's definitely an opportunity to say, okay, I am in the classroom, and I didn't necessarily reference it directly, but I definitely like found ways to say to my students, um, you can have a different, again, I'm just repeating myself, you can have a difference of opinion, but people have died because someone who had the ability did not like their opinion or did not like who they
Mm-hmm.
were.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to promote that. You don't want to be that type of person. um
Yes.
so
Yes.
so yeah.
And you're right. You're right. We can feel so helpless.
Mhm.
Um, but we do have, each of us, dear audience, each of you, we have our spheres of influence. They
Mhm.
may be incredibly small.
Mhm.
Mine is pretty limited,
Mhm.
but we do have our spheres of influence.
Mhm.
And yeah, it reminds me of a traditional Shaker hymn
Mhm.
called I Will Be a Child of Peace. I know it
Mhm.
because of Elaine Hagenberg's beautiful arrangement of it. And this is my this is my prayer. And I think that each of us can pray these words because they can be true for each of us.
Mhm.
O Holy Father, I will be a child of peace and purity, for well I know thy hand will bless the seeker after righteousness.
Mhm.
So, in our own lives, in our own classrooms or boardrooms or wherever we do our business, our daily work,
Mhm.
let's each seek to be a child of peace and purity and to seek after righteousness.
Amen. 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 I think that's a great place for us to stop. And I hope, listeners, that if you are with us, and I hope you're praying. I know the churches that I'm a part of have been praying, and thinking about all of the different situations, because there's a lot of things we could talk about that are going on in Ukraine. And we pray for peace in Ukraine, as
Mm-hmm.
people, as all types of people who are there trying to flee that flee the terrible acts of Russia. I pray that they all find safety, and that we do find
Mm-hmm.
a solution to this. And
Yes.
hopefully a solution that doesn't escalate to more violence and more
Yes.
bloodshed and more destruction. So
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Phil, I've missed you.
Same here.
I wish I was less busy.
Hey,
But I love that we have this ongoing project, an excuse to take some time out of our calendars and devote them to hopefully meaningful conversation.
yes.
Meaningful for us, I think.
Yes, definitely.
Meaningful for us for sure. Hopefully our
Mhm.
audience agrees.
Yes, hopefully so. So that let us know, and because we would love to add your voice to this conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Well, Phil, anything else for the good of the order?
that's it.
All right, then I will say bye for now.
Adios.